I'm Sara Chen.
And I'm Bart Smith.
And this is Behind the Yellow Tape, where we investigate the cases that keep detectives up at night.
You know, some cases, they really get under your skin, you know what I mean? And this pizza bomber story, the one you wanted to unpack, it's got it all. We're talking pizza delivery, we're talking bank robbery, but hold on, because then you add a bomb caller to the mix. Erie, Pennsylvania, 2003. Where do we even start with something like this?
It's funny, because it all starts out normal, almost. Summer afternoon, pizza delivery. Except the address is a TV transmission tower. Not exactly your average pizza stop. But here's where it gets really strange. When Brian Wells, the delivery guy, leaves that tower, he's not just got pizzas anymore. He's got a live bomb strapped to him.
A bomb collar.
Yeah.
That's the part that always gets me. Are we talking like a homemade thing or something more sinister?
Oh, this wasn't some amateur job, let me tell you. This was sophisticated. Multiple locks, a timer, even designed to go off if someone tried to mess with it. Whoever built this thing, they knew their stuff, and they wanted to make damn sure that collar wasn't coming off easily.
And it worked. Tragically, it did. So Wells drives away from this tower, this deadly device, literally on him. What happens next?
He ends up at a PNC bank on Peach Street. Witnesses said he had what looked like a cane, but turned out it was a shotgun, disguised. Walks into that bank, hands the teller a note, demands $250,000.
That's like methodical almost. Like he's following a script, but a really, really dark one.
And get this, the notes, the ones attached to the collar, they weren't just demanding the money, they were instructions, step by step, like some twisted scavenger hunt. Complete these tasks, and maybe, just maybe, you'll find the key to get this thing off you. Every single thing was planned out.
That's when you start asking why, right? Who dreams up something this crazy and for what?
That's the million-dollar question. See, as investigators dug into Brian Wells' life, one thing became clear. This wasn't some robbery gone wrong. This was a setup. And that's when they ran into the other players in this whole thing. And that's where Marjorie Deal Armstrong comes in.
Deal Armstrong. She's the one that just jumps out at you, right?
Yeah.
Just hearing about her background. It's like, wait, what?
Here's the thing. Back in '88, she was actually tried for murder, but she was found not guilty, acquitted. Jury didn't think there was enough to convict. So from the get-go, you've got someone who's familiar with the legal system, maybe even how to, work it.
Right, because acquittal doesn't mean innocent, just not enough to convict at the time. Okay, so not jumping to conclusions. Who else is involved?
Well, there's Kenneth Barnes, connected to Deal Armstrong, but his role, that was a real head-scratcher for a while. And then there's William Rothstein, known around town as, well, kind of an eccentric guy, handyman, brilliant, some folks said, but also known for these outlandish pranks, like seriously strange stuff.
Outlandish how? Give me an example of this guy's handiwork.
Think hidden rooms, fake deaths, the kind of stuff that makes you wonder, is this guy for real? But one thing's for sure, he was good at deception and good at building things, which, as you can imagine, became a pretty big deal in this whole investigation.
Okay, so we've got Deal Armstrong with a past, we've got Rothstein, master of the bizarre, and then there's Barnes, whose part in all this is still kind of murky. What did investigators find? What connected these people to what happened?
The thing that really tripped them up, evidence-wise, was that cane gun, the one Wells used. Turned out it was traced back to Rothstein's workshop, and then there were the notes on the bomb collar, all those detailed instructions, handwriting analysis. Dead match for Marjorie Deal Armstrong.
It's like a jigsaw puzzle from hell.
Yeah.
These suspects, the little details. Did the trial clear things up at all or just make things more complicated?
Oh, it was anything but simple. For starters, Kenneth Barnes, he took a plea deal, 45 years in prison in exchange for talking. And boy, did he talk. Pointed right at Deal Armstrong, said she was the mastermind behind the whole thing, that she'd played everyone.
45 years. That's not exactly a slap on the wrist.
Yeah.
Sounds like he wasn't just a pawn in all this.
Yeah.
What did he say about the plan? What was the point of it all, according to him?
Well, here's where it gets really wild. Barnes claimed Deal Armstrong, she was desperate for cash needed to hire a hitman, and the target, her own father. Talk about family drama, right? But even with the story as crazy as that, there's still that question mark hanging over it all. Well, let's not forget, Barnes was a criminal himself. He wanted that lighter sentence. Could he be trusted? Was he twisting the truth, maybe trying to shift the blame just to save his own skin? The investigators, they had to be really careful with his words.
What about Rothstein? Did he ever stand trial?
He died before that could happen, 2004, just a year after the bombing. Whatever he knew, he took it with him.
So that leaves Deal Armstrong to face some music, with Barnes' testimony looming large. Anything else tying her to the crime? Anything that helped the prosecution build their case?
This is where Floyd Stockton comes in. He was Rothstein's roommate, became a pretty important witness for the prosecution, claimed he saw the bomb collar being made, gave them all sorts of details about Rothstein's workshop, the tools, everything. In exchange, he got immunity.
Immunity. That's huge. But it also makes you wonder, what did he know that made that deal so important, and what was he avoiding?
Right. Stockton's testimony, it definitely gave them a look inside how that collar was made, put Rothstein right there in the thick of it. But it also just made the whole thing even more confusing. If Rothstein was as good as everyone said, why go through all that? Why such a crazy, risky plan? Was he trying to send a message? Or did something just go very, very wrong somewhere along the line?
So many questions, even with people talking. What about Neil Armstrong's trial? What did her lawyers do to fight all this stuff stacked against her?
Oh, that trial, it was a media circus. I mean, everyone was talking about it. She's facing all this evidence, Barnes' story, that handwriting analysis, even people saying they saw her in key places before the bombing happened. But you know what? Through it all, she kept saying she was innocent. Even went up on the stand herself, told her side of the story.
Wow, she went there. What was her story? What did she say happened?
Claimed there was this big conspiracy going on, that she was being framed, but she didn't really have anything to back it up. It was a bold move, you got to give her that, but the jury didn't buy it. December 2010, Marjorie Diehl Armstrong is found guilty. Armed robbery, conspiracy, using a weapon of mass destruction, you name it, she was convicted.
So guilty is charged. What was the sentence?
Life in prison plus 30 years. But here's the thing about this case. Even with the guilty verdict, even with Diehl Armstrong behind bars, it still doesn't feel over, you know? They got some answers, sure, but it just created a whole new set of questions that nobody can seem to agree on.
Like what? What's still got people stumped, even after all this time?
The big one, the question that just won't go away is Brian Wells. Was he in on it? Or was he, a victim forced into this whole thing?
Yeah, that's the part that sticks with you.
Yeah.
What do we even know about his involvement? What did they figure out?
It's tricky. There are those instructions, so detailed, and how he acted in the bank. Some people look at that and say he must have known what he was doing, maybe thought he'd get a cut of the money. But then you have his family, his friends, saying absolutely not. They say he was pressured or tricked into putting that collar on, told it was fake maybe, or threatened.
It seems so far out there. This was a pizza guy. Hard to imagine him turning into some master criminal overnight.
Right. Was he in over his head, made a deal with the devil and it backfired, or was he just unlucky? Wrong place, wrong time, worst case scenario. We might never have a real answer.
Yeah, that's just awful to think about. And we haven't even talked about motive, like beyond the hitman idea. What else were they looking at? Why go through all this?
That hitman theory, it makes sense, especially with Diehl Armstrong's history. But some folks thought maybe Rothstein had his own reasons, a personal grudge, maybe even against Wells himself.
A grudge against the pizza guy? What could that even be about?
$1 million question, right? And with Rothstein gone, we might never know. Some of those answers, they're gone with him. Leaves everyone else trying to make sense of it all.
So many layers to this case. Trial's over, but you could bet people are still talking about it. Any other details? Any loose ends that just don't add up?
Oh, tons. Even something as basic as where they put the collar on Wells, people debate that. Was it at the tower, or did they take him somewhere else first? Every little thing, every unanswered question just adds fuel to the fire, keeps people guessing.
And this wasn't just some local thing either. This was big. How to change things for the police, for how people saw this kind of crime.
It was a wake-up call, that's for sure.
Right.
That bomb, how it was built, all that planning. Police departments, they had to take a step back and say, okay, what if this happens again? How do we deal with something like this? It showed how far some criminals are willing to go.
And the media, forget it. It was everywhere.
Yeah, you're telling me, this case, it really changed the game for true crime. Suspense, betrayal, a tragic ending. You had books, documentaries, even that Evil Genius series on Netflix. People couldn't get enough of it. It showed everyone in a really scary way that sometimes real life is crazier than anything you'd see in a movie.
Makes you think, that's for sure. It's one thing to hear about a case like this, but when you actually go deeper, think about what went on in their heads. It's different.
You got that right. We're left with all these what-ifs, trying to figure out why they did what they did. Where's the line between being clever and just being dangerous, It really shows you how complicated people are and how one thing you do can change someone else's life forever.
Well, this deep dive has been something else. From a pizza delivery to a full-blown conspiracy, the pizza bomber case, it's one for the books. It's a reminder of just how dark things can get.
And maybe the biggest takeaway is this: some mysteries, they just don't have an easy answer. All we can do is look at what we've got, consider the possibilities, and accept that sometimes we'll never have all the pieces.